Coach, status on DeMarcus Davis and Justin Harris.
First of all, it's great to see all you guys. First of all, I'm really proud all the guys are here, and they've worked hard. DeMarcus is leaving. He's transferring to another school. And Justin Harris is on the roster, but is still, his status is unchanged.
That was it a typical first day? You kind of did it a little different, splitting up the young and the old guys.
Yeah, that's something I've done the last couple of years, and I wasn't able to do it last year because we were in class. Excuse me, and the schedules were a little different. But it makes for a really long day for the coaches. We were out there for about 3 hours or something like that. But it's really, I think, important, 3 hours and 20 minutes. But it's really important that we can work with the veterans at the level that they need to be worked at. That they can, a lot of those guys have worked hard all summer. They've been in the system for a year. They can take the next step. And then for the young guys, so often there's not many places in the country where the freshmen got coached. And when I say freshmen, all the just half the team got coached. So a lot of times they come and they hold a bag the first day. And we have a lot of players that are going to play. And for the first time in college football history, everyone's going to play here and there. So. Because of the redshirt rule. So I want to make sure that all of our young players get an opportunity to get coached, get developed, get pushed along, and at the same time get a chance to show what they can do. So that's split practices the first 3 days. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Saturday, Sunday in the mornings, or I guess Sunday's not, but this was hard on the coaches. It was a test to make sure we're ready. So.
Did you see any carryover from what they learned in the spring to today?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean they've come so far. We'll probably have more in today in one day than we had in probably all last training camp, on both sides of the ball. I mean, we're not having to start over with the older guys. The young guys are swimming a little bit. That's why we broke them up. But the older guys, I really think they've done a great job over the summer on their own of working together. And I think that shows by having the ability to go in. Because what you really want is you had 15 practices in the spring. You really want this to be practice 16, not practice 1. We only have 16 practices really until we start school. So we want to make sure we can maximize days like today.
How'd Charlie look today in the other QBs?
I thought all the quarterbacks threw the ball well, and Charlie's arm is he's healthy, he's throwing the ball really well. Jalen McClendon, it's the first time for me to see him throw a ball live, and I thought he could really spin it. Gary looked great. Preston Hurd did really well, and so a couple of the young quarterbacks, Preston Weeks and Mike Leverett, Garrett McGuire, but those older guys, they threw the ball well. They're confident in what they're doing. I think you can see them, taking their level of play to the next level.
So who were the younger? I mean, how'd you split it up? Were the younger guys this afternoon the ones who didn't play at all last year?
No, just really half the team, right? So if we have 4 deep, we take the guys, the varsity, the guys who played the most. We have a lot of guys who play a lot of football in this younger group, so like Chad Kelly, Jared Atkinson, but at the end of the day, just kind of split it in half. So, but all the freshmen are in that younger group. So. Okay. Just split the team in half so we can make sure we can really focus on each player on the team.
How did McClendon first get on your radar, and what was the decision behind going and grabbing a grad transfer quarterback?
Well, I think the biggest thing is you can't live with 2 scholarship quarterbacks. I don't know if anybody can, and so we knew we needed another one, and the grad transfer seemed to be the best option. And we had a lot of guys that we looked at. Frizz Jackson had spent time with him at NC State. I'm not sure if Frizz recruited him or just coached him, and he just said what a quality human being he was, and also at the same time that he was a good player, and he's had some key moments coming in against Florida State, coming in against Notre Dame. I think it was Notre Dame, or have winning some big games. And so Frizz knew his talent, and then knew mainly the character. When you bring a guy in who's a older guy, I want to make sure that they're going to really quickly, not conform, but understand what we want. And so he said that about Jalen. That's been right. Jalen came in. He's admitted into Truett Seminary, and we're excited to have him.
Injuries are part of the game, but how do you feel about your depth going into the season here?
I mean, we pretty much have everyone. We have Gavin, even Gavin Holmes was cleared off that late. Now I'm not sure we'll go slow with Gavin, but we're about as healthy as a team can be, and so I feel good about that. And we have to have the toughness to fight through the bumps and bruises of training camp, and callous ourselves so that we don't have those injuries over the course of the season. So we're going to work hard to make sure that we're as tough as we can be, and injuries will happen, but we want to make sure all the bumps and bruises we have a group that can fight their way through, and I think we have a lot of guys that are like that.
Did you split up the team last year?
I didn't. I couldn't do it last year
because of 4 deep. You could, or
well,
whatever that is.
Well, it was a roster, but also as much just we were in summer school for like 6 weeks. I mean, the summer school went way longer. This year it's just today and the next 3 days. And also last year no one really knew what to expect, right? This year the guys have been around, they kind of understand it, so we felt like it was really important that there's key guys. There's, especially with this new redshirt rule, there's some vets who the best thing that could happen to them would be a redshirt this year, and they can still play in 4 ball games, and so that they can, instead of being a backup, can be a starter for 2 years. So we really want to make sure every player we're looking at individually what's the best thing for them, and then also what's the best thing for the team. So this just allows even me as the head coach to get my eyes on twice as many guys and each coach.
Do you have to do that because of the fact they can play 4 games? Do you practice differently?
No, well, we did
down
it,
the road.
Yeah, we did it. We did it at my last stop, and kind of funny. I saw Mike Bloomgren from Rice, who's a heck of a guy, and he was talking about doing this. And I said to myself, I've been toying back and forth, like, are we going to do this? And I remember Mike saying, they did it at Stanford. He's doing it at Rice. And I said, well, that's what we should do. And I think the biggest thing is, like, when we have a special teams, as opposed to having 2 deep, we're going to have 3 or 4 deep. Because each and every week, I mean, guys could be, it's like almost like the NFL, like, hey, you're active this week, you're up. And so we're trying to teach the special teams and all these opportunities to a bunch of guys. So I think strategically we're going to try to make sure that we maximize each player's opportunity this year. Build the roster, not just for this year, but for next year. You have guys who maybe they've come and they've played 2 years already, and they haven't really started yet, but they've played. This is an opportunity if they, if they're the best player, we'll start them, but if they're not, maybe we can redshirt them and have them be a starter for 2 years. So there's just guys that, because of the things that have happened, haven't had a chance to redshirt, and if we can use now, I think it's a great rule.
Talking about wide receiver, going from the spring to now, are they out just from one practice? Did they exceed your expectations, or what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that they're all healthy, so and that's day one. I mean, we always know we'll have a couple pulls or something, unfortunately, but I think over the course of the next 2 weeks, I think we're going to see that group really, take this step. And I love the work ethic they had today, and I think the freshmen are really special. So adding the freshmen in, getting Jared Atkinson back, he wasn't with us in the spring, getting J. Red back, those things to me strengthen the group. Getting Platt back, Gavin's, Sneed's now. So I mean, really the whole group is full. So I'm excited about them. I think they could be a really good group.
You were very hands-on with the offensive.
The quarterback reps. Is Charlie getting all the first team reps?
No, we'd never do all that with anybody. Even when I had, like, PJ was my starter, I knew that we'll always make sure that we always go even reps with everything. So whereas in the NFL, they'll stagger the reps in training camp and early season. Everything is always equal reps. But we'll give guys reps with the ones and the twos. And then when we all come together, between Gary and Preston, we'll all put them in with the ones, because I want them to feel comfortable knowing kind of, hey, or me to be comfortable knowing, hey, he can do it at this level with these guys. And I feel good about that group, but I want to make sure they have all the opportunities to show what they can do.
You were very hands-on with the offensive line in the spring. What did you see from that position group today?
Well, I think one of the great things is we brought a bunch of young guys in who are pretty good players. Seeing Casey Phillips and Connor Galvin and all those guys out there, I mean, they've bolstered the group. And I think we have Blake Blackmore back. So I feel like over the course of a year, those guys have made a real commitment to getting big and strong. And you look at Blake Blackmore. I mean, he's a 700-pound squat. He's got a 30-inch vertical. He does 225 over 30 times. I mean, he's a combine freak. Take Christian Beard. I mean, he's a guy that he outperforms the NFL average for that position. So those guys have really developed physically, and I like their attitude. I like their, they've developed an edge to them in terms of the way they practice, and they're a group that lets us push them. They're letting us coach them, which is fun.
Matt, is Sean Bell coaching the O-line, or is George out there? Or
no, Sean's coaching the O-line.
Okay, is he the permanent coach there now, or is he?
I don't know if I'm the permanent coach. So I mean, he's the offensive line coach for this year, and George, dealing with all the health things he kind of had to deal with. He's just consulting all of us and helping us.
Matt, you mentioned J. Red. Talk about him and his story coming back, and how nice is it to have him back? Well,
I mean, the biggest thing with me about Jared is he has such ability, and his ability as a football player, but he also has ability as a human. He's a tremendous person, and going through everything that he's been through, the thing that stood out to me was his family. Just how wonderful his mom and his dad are, and how much he loves them. And so to have him back, and I'm sure he has a different perspective. I know, my mom, when my mom dealt with having breast cancer, it was, so hard for me to deal with, and then how different I was afterwards. And so you're taking a wonderful young man, and he's had to grow up quickly. And I think there's really, really good days ahead for J. Red. And He's one of those guys I'm talking about. You know, he's been here, and now it's his time to take the next step. And I told him today I'm going to push him to take the next step because he can do it. He can be whatever he wants to be.
What are your expectations for the offensive line this year?
In terms of just
improvement, overall improvement.
Yeah, I mean, I expect them to play well. You know what I'm saying? I expect us to be a team that can run the ball. You know, when we need to. You know, it's one thing to run the ball like when you're kind of up and rolling. I'm talking when you need to. Games on the line. Like you go back and look at last year, like short yardage, goal line. You know, chance to win the game. We couldn't do it, right? So I'm expecting us to be a team that can run the ball when needed, and I'm expecting us to protect. You know, so I think we have a group. You know, a couple guys get banged up. You put some young kids in, but they've been with us now. You know, you've been in the program for a year or two now. It's your time to play, right? So I feel good about where they're heading. They got a lot of work to do, but I expect them to go out and be physical and be tough and run the ball and protect the quarterback. So the great thing is any improvement will be staggering, correct? Because we were just struggled, but they got better as the year went on. But I think we've really seen they've fully committed. Like Pat Lawrence, I mean, what an amazing offseason he's had. Blake Blackmark, Tech. I mean, Tech's become a dude now, right? And Malin, Fu Morgan, Xavier Newman, like he's so big now, you know. And so those guys, you know, as I told them last year, you know, everybody's getting their turn. You'll get your turn someday, X. And so I've seen that growth. And they've grown in the weight room. They've grown all these places. Now they have to grow on the football field. And that's really for our whole team. It's now the time to develop on the football field. So hopefully we can be a team that can run the football and protect the quarterback.
What you've seen in the spring, and now with the youngsters, the freshmen coming in, what do you feel the biggest strength of this team is going into the season?
I have no idea yet, just because there's so much that has to happen. I think probably, you know, I think the biggest thing is that we have a lot of guys with talent, you know. Now, is there any one area? I don't know if there's any one guy that we're like, oh my goodness, this guy's here. But I think there's just so many guys that have talent and have toughness. I think the biggest thing for us is really here, just fully committing to everything it takes to be great, right? And so a lot of us want to be great when it's convenient or when it's easy, but like, are we going to be a team that fully commits to doing all the hard things it takes to be great? And so, but the good news is we have a lot of guys that, because of everything that's happened in the last 2 years, and we think we've recruited pretty well. A lot of guys we feel like can go play. And so we have to do a great job of getting everyone ready and then letting the best players show what they can do.
Matt, more on that learning to be great. When
I might cramp up on you. Would you tell the trainer to give me something?
Yes, sir. That's because you can be skinny.
What's that? I tell you what, listen, I had to apologize to my wife the other day. I said, I have got to get in shape. So that's part of the reason I'm doing the split practices. But it's way harder than I thought it was going to be, this getting in shape thing.
Well, you know, Mike Lundgren, he gets to split up his practices a lot more. He started last Friday.
Yeah, he had an extra week.
Yeah,
and I think their kids are in summer school, so maybe I'm not sure, but yeah, he's way earlier.
But in terms of that learning to be great, I mean, right now, are you doing more coaching than telling? And for kids who maybe only been here the last couple of years, don't have that frame of reference of knowing what it takes to be great, how do you instill that?
Well, I think that's my job each and every year, is just to say, you know, I use the word process, and the players look at me like I'm nuts, right? Like, what does that mean? And I say very simply, like, well, you know, you want something, what do you have to do to get there, right? So, like for me, like, I'd like to get in shape. What do I have to do? Well, I told them I've tried. You know, maybe I'll eat a little less this. I'll have no carbs. And finally, you know what? At the end of the day, like, I gotta just stop eating so much and work out a little bit, right? You gotta just do the things it takes to do things. And so, what is it? What we want to win. So what do we can't control the other team. We can control us. So we have to learn to do everything right. We have to learn to compete every day. We have to learn to be as tough as we can be, and do that day after day after day. And so, my job, I always feel like, is to make sure the football's right, make sure we're doing the football at a high level, but also just keep telling them, like, this is what it takes to be great, is not to compare yourself to other people, not to just to control what you can control, and that's your attitude, your preparation, and your effort. So I think that's, you know, even when you're at a program where you've won 4 championships in a row, the young kids that you recruit, they haven't really done it yet till it's their time, and when all of a sudden they're ready to play, they have to understand what it takes. So I'm doing a lot of football. A lot more football than I have in a year, but I'm also still always doing a lot of head coaching, which is, I think, getting everyone's frame of reference. You're just trying to get everyone as aligned as close as possible.
But are you seeing that instant recognition that maybe you didn't see last year?
Yeah, I think we have a lot more guys that are understanding. I think we have a lot of guys that are walking around saying, like, you know what, like, you know, Coach talks about, hey, how hard we have to work in the weight room and things we do in the weight room. Like, we are a really strong football team now. Like, you look at the numbers, you look at the bench presses, you look like we are, like, we'll put our numbers up against a lot of people. And so they also know they weren't that way a year ago. So how do we get there? Well, we didn't tweet about it. We didn't Instagram about it. We worked and we ate and we trained. And so I think that they're feeling more confident about who they are, you know, because they see the progress they've made. Now we just got to go do it in the ball game, you know. They got to go out there and play great football and win some games, and all of a sudden realize, like, wow, we control whether we win or lose.
Matt, you've seen the evolution of the helmet. You got this new helmet, the Vices 01. You amazed at the differences now?
Yeah, it's funny. I remember playing for Coach Paterno, and he always would say, and this was before we talked about concussions, it was more about when we talked about neck injuries, but he would always say, to fix football, he thought we should, or not fix football, but to improve football, he thought we should take the face masks off. That was his whole thing. He would always say, take the face masks off. You know, back in the day, we hit with our shoulders. So to go from no face mask to where we are now, and I really think it's just an unbelievable commitment, I'll say this, by Mac and the athletic department and the people on campus. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. I also think it's a really cool commitment by a lot of our players that instead of, like, I want the coolest looking helmet, to say I want the safest helmet, right? And so, but we offered it to every team. No one else has done that I know of. No one else, according to the Vices guys, no one else has said every guy on our team can have it. And but you know, at the end of the day, isn't our number one job? Our number one job is to make sure our players' lives are better. If there's something we can do to help their health and safety, that's awesome, bro. Then I want to absolutely do it. And so, like I'd say, if Bryant was going to go play football, I'd want to put him in the best helmet. Now, I can't wait to hear us hit each other because it's kind of like a rubber plastic thing. So I'm anxious to hear if it sounds like, you know, contact, or if it sounds like me hitting this. But it's really cool to see, and we're grateful to Vices, but I'm really grateful to people here at Baylor to let us do that.
You were careful at times in the spring with Jalen Hurd or Denzel if you had a hammy issue. How do you handle players like that in the fall? Is it a full go, or are you going to kind of watch them and have them on maybe a day off here and there?
Well, there's two parts to this. Number one, I have to teach them that they have to take care of their bodies so that they can have a career. Unless you're a first-round draft pick, if you're a guy fighting to make a team and you pull your hamstring, you're cut the next day. Like, or you're on injury reserve, you get injury stuff. So one of my jobs is to help make sure our guys are great pros. It's one thing easy when you're a first round. I'm talking about when you're like a middle guy and you're trying to stay. So getting them to understand, like, you can't pull something, right? You know, you have to do everything you can to prevent those injuries. Now, but when we do have one, we're always going to be smart with the guys. I mean, I don't ever decide how much a guy practices. The training staff does that. So, you know, we'll always be smart. But in terms of keeping guys out of things, we're in the season now. You know, so the spring is one thing. You played a lot of reps going into your fifth year, senior year. Spring, you shouldn't have to do a lot, but going into training camp, we need to make sure we're clicking. So we practice everybody.
All right.
That's it.
Thanks.